Welcome, Fly Tribe, and welcome to the Painful Truth Podcast, where we will dive deep into uncomfortable topics that will help us grow as an aerial athlete. Are you ready? Let's go. When I got carjacked, I began self-sabotaging by eating chips and drinking Cokes and Pepsi, and I gained 30 pounds. Geez, I wonder why. Hey there, Fly Tribe. My name is Abby Moldenhauer for those that are new. I'm a retired and former professional aerialist. Welcome to the Painful Truth Podcast, where we dive deep into uncomfortable topics and conversations that help us grow as a human and an aerial athlete. Don't forget to like and subscribe, ring the notification bell so that you're the first to know when I drop the newest episode. When I was a professional aerialist, I was carjacked. I was working in New Jersey, about to finish the contract out, and I was about to go to India for the next contract. So I rented a car to move my things from New Jersey to New York because I was going to stay in New York and train because I had a month until I had to go to India. See, I was living in the casino in New Jersey, in Atlantic City, performing for these two shows. And after our late show, I would go and eat and then hit the bed. I loved nothing more than to get up early and take advantage of the spa that we had there because we had free access to it, and it was awesome. When you're working a couple of shows every day, it's really important to stay healthy, and that was important to me. I enjoyed that aspect of my career. That's why, part of the reason why I chose that as a career, because I liked taking care of myself that way. But my roommate, she was very different from me. My roommate was actually a drunk, and after the shows, she would actually go down to the casinos and get drunk. Around 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, she would come home, come up to the room or whatever, really with different men almost every night. This is actually where I ended up meeting the person that would later on carjack me. And unfortunately, this person groomed me into thinking that he was my friend. Of course, I let my guard down, and he tried to take me, and I am assuming, I'm not sure, but he was definitely going to take me and traffic me, because later on I found out he was a pimp. This confusion is what set me on the path for closure, though. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who needs closure, and this is kind of where I found out that this person was a human trafficker. Needless to say, though, a very, very short story in which I'll tell my full story in a different video. I'll link a full testimony of my carjacking in the profile. But being carjacked changed my life. It changed my soul. It changed who I was literally as a person from the core. It's interesting how trauma can morph someone's entire being, but it did for me. The darkest depression ever completely took over my life. It took over 5 years to heal. And because of my injuries I sustained during the carjacking, I wasn't able to go back to work as a performer. In fact, the India contract, I actually found a substitute for it, and I was not able to go to India, which right there was completely deflating for me as a person. I felt like I had failed in my career. Because of the injuries that I sustained during the carjacking, I wasn't able to go back to work. But I do believe this was what set me off into the deepest, darkest depression because of my chronic pain. When you're in such pain that it takes over your entire life, and that's all that consumes you, your physical being literally changes, your soul changes, it morphs you. So I self-sabotaged. I self-sabotaged by drinking Cokes and eating chips, smoking cigarettes even, and doing literally everything that I was like completely against. The bane of my existence before, right? It was traumatizing. And some people may laugh and say, that's silly, that's nothing, that's simple. But you should really have grace for other people, because you never know how other people, what people go through, and you should have grace for them. So you can imagine all of these substances were only making my issues worse with the inflammation in my body. But I could not stop self-sabotaging. I was also feeling a sense of failure, like I said before. I felt that I had like totally failed in my career. I had to resort back to waiting tables after being on stage of like 10, 20,000 people praising you, right, for your talents. And this is why I preach about being humble, because you can get lost sometimes in the praises and in your kind of like dark ego. And I feel like just really talented people can go there easily because you're always being praised. So I just encourage you to kind of step back and keep a humble heart, keep a humble ego. And unfortunately, this incident taught me that, because I literally went from being a professional aerialist and then from being on stage, like I said, 10, 20,000 people, and then having to go back to waiting tables, which there's nothing wrong with waiting tables, and that's the whole point of this. But at the time, I felt like I had failed as a performer, as a professional aerialist. And I was dealing with this deep sense of confusion, this confusion of how evil people can be. I couldn't understand that. And this is what woke me up to a lot of the terrible brainwashing we have been through as a society, and how the justice system is not on our side. They've got their own agenda. But skipping ahead of the story, I slowly began to gain weight. And I literally told myself that I just couldn't deal with it. And that was why I began to just kind of eat what I want and drink what I want. And it was terrible. I was self-sabotaging myself. Yes, I was carjacked, and yes, I wasn't able to perform, but I was making it worse. And mind you, I had built my entire life on fitness and health, and it was my true passion. I've grown up being healthy and fit and sharing it with others. It's just a true passion of mine. So this was life-changing. It was life-altering for me. It was shattering. It changed who I was as a person. Self-sabotage can do that. And different situations in our life can make us go there. When I look back now, I wish I had been a little stronger. I wish I had even had somebody a little bit more in my corner to pick me up. Of course, in order to have somebody in your corner, you actually have to talk about it. You actually have to let people know what you're going through. I knew how to take my life back, though, and that is one thing. And that is because of how I was raised and all of the circumstances and situations that I've been through in my life. But it was very difficult because of the chronic pain. No doctors were really able to help me a whole lot. No chiropractors were helping me too much. It was all helping a little, but I needed something drastic because it was literally hard for me to get out of bed. It was excruciating pain. I couldn't roll in my bed without crying. I had to literally pick my pant legs up and lift my hips up and kind of jump to the next side. And I went through this for years. Needless to say, I gained 30 pounds from this entire debacle, from this entire self-sabotage. If I had just not done that, I wouldn't have had to kick the habit of eating crap, drinking Cokes, smoking cigarettes. I mean, those right there, those habits are not for the faint of heart to banish. So why? And we ask ourselves, why do we keep doing this to ourselves, right? How does this keep happening to me? You might ask yourself these questions when you feel trapped in patterns that create problems in your life and keep you from achieving your goals. Although you try to make changes and disrupt these patterns, right? Somehow you end up in these same places, these same spots again and again, over and over. And we ask ourselves, why do I keep doing this to myself? How does this keep happening to me, right? You can self-sabotage yourself in a number of ways, and some are obvious, but others are a bit harder to recognize. Sometimes bad things just happen without anyone even being at fault, kind of like my carjacking. Sure, some misfortunes might be solely the fault of someone else, kind of like my carjacking, but that's not always the case, right? If you tend to find fault elsewhere whenever you face difficulties, it may be worth taking a closer look at. It may be, worth looking at the part that you played into it, right? Because sometimes we forget that we did have fault in it. This goes back to self-responsibility. I'm always talking about it, right? If we can recognize it, we can change it. And that's what's so cool about awareness, is that awareness is the first step to change. There's nothing wrong with moving on either. There's nothing wrong with moving on from the situations that don't meet your needs. This might be the best option sometimes, but it's usually wise to take a quick step back and ask yourself first if you really made an effort. A lot of people, they'll do these weight loss programs or whatever program it is. But let's take a weight loss program, for example. And they won't get any results. And I know, and I'm kind of like picturing this in my mind as we're talking, like these images are going through my mind, because I go through this with my clients. Everybody goes through this. I go through it. I've bought programs before and I've not gotten results. But it's literally because I didn't do the program. Okay? Let's just face it. And I see it time and time again. And I wish I could just be like, I just want to shake people and be like, you're not getting it because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like people say, there's a reason why there's a method or a system or a plan or a program. Call it what you want. Too often people want to recreate the wheel, and that's where people get stuck. That's where people get frustrated, and then self-sabotage can happen. It's tough, but working through challenges and problems helps you grow. When you give up before you've put in much effort, you may not learn how to make different choices in the future. And I don't know about you guys, but I was always taught to finish what I started. Even if it wasn't great. It's kind of like showing up, right? Showing up for that 90%. Even if you show up and you just do a little bit. And I tell myself even this when I'm going on fat shreds, because when you're fat shredding, there's a lot that is incorporated, like about 2.5 to 3 hours of working out every day. And when I say that, people are like, what? Oh my God, no way. I don't have time for that. Well, that's you creating a barrier for yourself. That's you putting an obstacle in your way. That's you saying that you can't do it. And I know that if you show up for 90% of the time, if I just show up, right? Even if I just show up and get on the treadmill for 5 minutes and I don't do anything else, at least I'm making that step forward and not taking a step back, and self-sabotaging myself by staying in bed, in my warm bed, right? So it's like you making that choice, you making that decision, you deciding if you're going to self-sabotage or if you're going to say, no, I want this more. I want this thing over here more. Have you ever found yourself stalled or stuck when you're trying to accomplish, maybe a daily task? You're definitely not alone in this. And maybe you've prepared, done all the research, and sat down to get started, only to find you just can't begin. Has that been you? And I want to know, comment below if you've been that person, if you've had everything ready to go and then your sail just deflates and then you go and sit on the couch and turn Netflix on. Is that you? Let me know. Your motivation has completely disappeared, right? So you avoid the task. Maybe it's the cardio. Maybe it's the meal planning. Has that ever been you? Have you ever known that you need to meal plan for the week? And if you don't, then your whole entire week is just totally thrown off. And then you skip it. And then look, you're like struggling every day to get your good eating in. Yeah, self-sabotage at its best, right? Procrastination also can be super bad for self-sabotage. Procrastination also, but it typically has an underlying cause, like feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you have trouble managing your time. Maybe you're even doubting yourself. Maybe you're doubting your skills, your abilities. I know I've been to each and every one of them, probably every day. Just today even, I was feeling overwhelmed. Just today, I was feeling like I wasn't managing my time as well as I should have. And just today, I was feeling doubting in my abilities and my skills. So I think that we all go through that, even almost daily. Whether you criticize yourself in front of others or have a habit of negative self-talk, the same thing can happen. Your words may eventually be taken as truth. Believing these criticisms can literally promote an attitude of self-defeat and keep you from wanting to try. Eventually, you might give up before you even begin. Is that you? Have you ever experienced that, guys? Self-sabotage happens when you do certain things that were like adaptive in one context, but are not any longer necessary. So in other words, these behaviors helped you adapt to a previous situation. In other words, these behaviors helped you adapt to previous situations, like traumatic childhood or like a toxic relationship, and survive the challenges you faced there. Or in our case, we just dread doing what we need to do, like working out or doing like cardio or cross training. They may have soothed you or defended you in the past, by like not doing those things, by just going and sitting on the couch and watching Netflix. I know that soothes me. But these methods of coping can cause difficulties when your situations changes, right? And we don't want to get used to that being a coping mechanism. And I know when I was carjacked, when I was going through that chronic pain, I knew what I needed to do. And I would get up off the couch and I would attempt to do it, and then I would hurt so bad. And so I would go back and I would go and sit on the couch. And guys, this is my self-sabotage. Even though I knew I needed to get up, I would go and lay back down. So what are you doing? Are you finding yourself doing similar things in your life that aren't allowing you to get the body that you've always wanted or the life that you've always wanted? And like I stated before, like in my own experience, failure was a big thing that I had a hurdle over. Wanting to avoid failure can lead you to avoid trying. If you don't try, you can't fail. So your unconscious mind might present you with excuses and ways to self-sabotage yourself. Same with control. Control can also be a cause of self-sabotage. Some people just really need that control. I know I have had to fight through that as well, knowing that I can't control everything around me and in life, and that's okay. But learning how to cope with that in a healthy way. And that's not by self-sabotaging yourself, by getting angry if something happens that you weren't expecting, let's say. And so identifying these behaviors, it's not always easy to examine your actions. And I know this, but like I said earlier, reflecting, being aware of what's happening is what's going to help you change. So being able to examine your actions is going to help you note patterns of these self-sabotaging situations. Like admitting we are self-sabotaging is painful. I'm not going to beat around the bush about that. And that is exactly why this is something we need to talk about, because it's uncomfortable. It's painful. We tend to avoid it for as long as possible until we have no choice but to face it. And that's when we literally hit into a brick wall. We don't want to get there, friends. We want to avoid hitting that brick wall. If you feel comfortable examining your behaviors to find patterns, it helps to look at areas of life where things seem to be regular, right? If you feel comfortable examining your behavior to find patterns, it helps to look at areas of life where things seem to regularly go wrong. Do any of these common factors stand out? Give me a thumbs up if you self-sabotage. Give me a thumbs down if you're perfect and you never self-sabotage. All right, Flight Tribe, I love you guys so much. And moving on, so practicing getting comfortable with failure. And this is something that I have personally had to really get comfortable with. And it's really been great. Honestly, it's helped me become more authentic. It's normal to feel afraid of rejection, failure, and other emotional pains. These things are generally not fun to deal with, right? So you take a step back to avoid them, usually. But we want to avoid doing that. We want to go head on and cope with things in a healthy way. But this becomes problematic when the steps you take involve self-sabotaging. You might prevent unwanted experiences, right? But you're also bound to miss out on things you do want. Like a chiseled six-pack or bigger and stronger muscles. Maybe you just want to be more lean. Maybe you just want to look better in your clothes and feel better. Maybe you just want to feel lighter in the sky. There's nothing wrong with wanting. So it's important to be able to identify what you really want. Most people are just unclear of what they want, and so they choose programs or solutions that doesn't match up to their goals. So they get zero results. I see this time and time again. Even though I lay out the information for people, they don't take the information. They'll literally go this way and they don't get results. And we'll have conversations about it. And I'm like, I know that's why, because you're not doing this over here. Being able to clearly state what you want and then decide what you need to get in order to get there. So decide just like I had to. When I gained 30 pounds, I let depression overtake me. I let self-sabotage overtake me by doing simple things like drinking Coke and eating chips. But those simple things led to a massive, massive negative results. And I had to really fight through that. Those simple things created this massive debacle. And I'm still trying to untwist and unwind from this debacle. So if we can stop self-sabotaging and begin to really take our life in control and take self-responsibility and stay aware and be clear in what we want, then wow, just think about the harmony that we can be in life. And just think about the body that we could get, the life that we could get. Decide to conquer self-sabotage. Don't let something take control over you so much that you don't live the life you want. And that goes for having the body you want too. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look or feel a certain way. Don't let people let you think that you're too vain or that you should love the way you are. Wanting an amazing physique has everything to do with loving yourself. Wanting a six-pack ab is not you being vain. It's you being aware of what you want. There's nothing wrong with needing or wanting to lose fat. Having less fat has massive benefits like less disease in your body. It also helps us as an aerialist feel light in the sky. No one ever said they want to feel like a sack of potatoes. We actually strive to feel lighter. And you can do that by increasing your strength and decreasing your fat. It's literally that simple. And the strategy to doing so is scientific. It's just a matter of you not self-sabotaging and doing the darn thing. So have you ever wanted something so bad, but then you go sit on the couch knowing darn well you need to get up? Leave me a comment. Let me know. Is that you? You can just even reply with, yes, that's me on the couch. Or maybe you're trying to lose fat and be good with your training, but you just ate a Ben & Jerry's ice cream pint all by yourself. Yep, that's been me. Let me know. Comment below, ice cream. We all scream, ice cream. We have all done it, but now start to be aware of how you're creating your own barriers and how you can kick them down to get the body and life you always wanted. If you resonate with this episode, share it with an aerial friend who could hear it also. And don't forget to tag us on Instagram. You can tag us at flying.fitnesstx. Take a screenshot and DM us so that we know to look for you. Also, if you do this, guys, I will personally send you some fun aerial swag that you can use and have fun with. All right, guys, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so that you're the first to know when I drop the newest video just for aerialists. Till next time, Fly Tribe, may you create the life you have always wanted.